Hi, my name is Philipp Münzer. I'm a PhD researcher at University of Warwick in the UK, and I would like to show you what I've done during my master's thesis at Montaigne University, Leoben. The title was Investigation of Ferroelectricity in Barium Titanate Relaxors by Piezoresponse Force Microscopy, and it was conducted within the POLDERS project, a project funded by the Austrian Science Fund FWF. So let's dive right into it. So what was it all about? The material system I investigated can find potential application in systems storing electric energy. More precisely, as the base material for electrostatic capacitors. Electrostatic capacitors are characteristic for being able to release their stored energy in a short amount of time, but the overall amount of energy they are capable to store is rather low compared to electrochemical capacitors or batteries. One can speak of electrostatic capacitors as devices with extremely high power density, but rather low energy density. This particular combination makes them suitable for the application in microelectronics, where speed is more crucial than capacity. Now we can ask, what kind of materials are used in electrostatic capacitors? In this polarization electric field diagram, you can see the three most common types of materials used in electrostatic capacitors. We don't have to worry about the details of this diagram for now, only that the filled area is a measure for the energy that can be recovered during a charge-discharge cycle, and the striped area corresponds to the energy losses. Linear dielectrics can fully recover their stored energy, but are only capable of storing a limited amount of it. Ferroelectrics, on the other side, can store a large amount of energy, but only a part of it can be recovered. Relaxor ferroelectrics can be considered as an ideal hybrid between the aforementioned, being able to store large amounts of energy with minimum losses. The major downside of these materials is that they are predominantly based on lead, a toxic element. What about lead-free alternatives? Barium titanate-based relaxors count among the most promising lead-free candidates, and this is what the material looks like in an optical microscope. We see that the material is comprised of grains, and the grains are organized in so-called ferroelectric domains, forming a striped pattern. Zooming further in, we can see the smallest building block of such a domain, a unit cell of a perovskite crystal. The colored spheres represent the individual barium, titanium, and oxygen atoms. What makes ferroelectrics like barium titanate so unique is that the titanium atom displaces from its central position, creating a permanent dipole that can be even switched if an external electric field is applied. To create a relaxor, this mechanism must be sufficiently suppressed, and this is achieved by replacing a part of the titanium atoms by other atoms like zirconium or niobium. These disordering atoms change the shape of the unit cell permanently, suppress the formation of domains, and ideally increase the efficiency of the system. Which brings up the question, how did I investigate these materials? I used a method called Piezoresponse force microscopy, conducted in an atomic force microscope. An atomic force microscope scans a surface with an extremely sharp tip that is located at the end of a cantilever. The tip apex has a radius of 30 nanometers, roughly 1,000th the size of a human hair. The tip is in permanent contact with the surface and driven with an AC bias, which leads to a local oscillation of the ferroelectric in the contact zone, due to the inverse piezoelectric effect. Since the domain response depends on the mutual orientation of the polarization and the electric field, a distinction can be made between differently oriented ferroelectric domains. Finally, what are the results obtained with this method? I used Piezoresponse force microscopy in three ways to attain information about these systems. First, I imaged a pristine domain structure by scanning the tip line by line on the surface, obtaining unique domain structures depending on the type and amount of foreign atoms introduced. Then, I switched the polarization locally by applying a voltage of up to 50 volts to the tip or sample, leading to local patterning of the domains. The last experiment, switching spectroscopy piezoresponse force microscopy, monitors the change in piezo response while the polarization underneath the tip is gradually switched by voltage pulses with increasing amplitude. This method yields characteristic hysteresis loops which contain a lot of information about the local switching dynamics of the relaxors. Now I'm almost at the end of my short video. I want to thank my supervisors for the support during the conduction of this thesis and our collaborators for the continuous and helpful advice they provided. Thank you for your interest.